So originally this started out as a normal video which wasn't going to be more than a couple of pages long. However, I got kind of carried away with the research and it's transformed into a full-blown 15-page presentation. But it's I think it's necessary because I put a lot of different topics together here and bring in the Gematria, which should add another level of understanding to this absolute shitfest that we're in. Mainly this is going to be an exposition on Saturn, and I'm going to be tying it to coronavirus and some other stuff as well. If you are familiar with the work of Jordan Maxwell, then you would have heard a lot of this information before. But what I'll be doing is tying in the Gematria because there's a lot of stuff in here that goes together, so try and stay with me. I apologise if I jump around. I have tried to present this information in the most streamlined way possible so it's less confusing, but there's a lot of stuff in here, so let's just get straight into it. Now, if you've been following my videos on this whole coronavirus shit or Zags, I'm sure you've seen the vast amount of 66s that have been all over this corona shit. So I saw this headline earlier this week and it sort of got the ball rolling. It was another 66. And it got me thinking about the Saturn death cult, so I got researching and plugging different things into the calculator, and as you can see, Saturn is 93 and 21. So like event 201, got a 2 and a 1. Saturn is 93 and 21. Saturn worship is 201 and 66, okay, so like event 201 and 66 like corona. Saturn worship, okay. As soon as I saw this, I knew that I was onto something because I remembered that occult symbolism also equals 201, like event 201. So we have event Saturn worship and occult symbolism. Right, now some surface information about Saturn that you might not know. I'm going to brush over this very quick, but you can Google this stuff if you need more information. So I'm pretty much going to paraphrase all this stuff here, but again, Google Cassini images, hexagon, Saturn, if you want more information on this. So, cut a long story short, you can get these photos straight off NASA's website, by the way. Essentially, this Voyager discovered through infrared mapping, there was a probe out, and it was orbiting Saturn, trying to ascertain certain information, and this probe picked up through infrared mapping that, and I quote, "A bizarre six-sided hexagon feature is encircling the entire north pole of Saturn." And they go on to say, "This is a very strange feature that lying in a precise geometric fashion with nearly 6 equal straight sides. We've never seen anything like this before on any other planet. Saturn's thin atmosphere, where circularly shaped waves and convective cells dominate, is perhaps the last place you'd expect to see such a six-sided geometric figure." So, on the north pole of Saturn, we have this very rare, very bizarre hexagonal feature that's being produced by cloud formations. So this is on the north pole, and this is exclusive to Saturn only, okay? Now on Saturn's south pole, you probably already know about this, the clouds form what's called the Eye of Saturn. Google this, you can see some absolutely fantastic images. So here we go again, cloud formations forming an eye, yeah? Google the Eye of Saturn. So we have a hexagon, and we have this eye, okay? Both shapes and cloud formations unique to Saturn, exclusively unique to the poles of Saturn. Now time for some geometry. So the cube is the three-dimensional version of the four-sided square, which corresponds to the physical realm and material world. Yet another link to the cube being the building block of nature. We can also logically see that the number 4 is represented in many forms of our established world. So the cube or the square is used to represent the physical world or the building blocks of nature, and we can see the number 4 and the fundamental aspects of 4 in our existence, like the 4 seasons, the 4 cardinal directions, the 4 base elements, the 4 ciphers. It's all over the place. And in Pythagorean mathematics, 4 represented God because it connected to the tetraces, which was the 10. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10. So Pythagoras held 4 in extremely high regard. Also, the alchemical symbol for Earth is this, as you can see, which is a cross in a circle, the cross representing the cardinal directions, like the compass and all the other aspects of thought we just discussed. And if you look at this symbol here, you can see a hexagon in a cube. So this is a 2D hexagon contained within a 3-dimensional cube. Right. I read this. The black cube is symbolic of Saturn because of occult beliefs in symbolizing the 3-dimensional world we live in as a symbol of matter. One of the oddest things surrounding Saturn worship is the observance of the NASA Voyager's Cassini mission. Then he goes on to talk about the hexagon. There is an unexplained hexagon-shaped vertex storm at the north pole of Saturn that you can see in public domain. A hexagon is actually a flattened out cube when viewed 3-dimensionally, so I find it odd that ancient occult practices somehow knew this was worshipped before the photograph was ever taken. So the occult equates the black cube with Saturn, and this has been done for centuries. However, this information was apparently unknown until the 90s in these Cassini missions, so we have this relationship between the hexagon, the cube and the square, all of which can be geometrically connected with one another and all used to represent the material plane. So the black cube, which also contains the shape of a hexagon and a square, is worshipped throughout the occult for a relation to Saturn and the material plane. Every Abrahamic religion has their ode or head nod to the black cube or the black box. As you can see here, the cross, that which Jesus was obviously killed upon, unfolds out into a cube, and he was killed on a crucifix. Okay, crucifix equals 93, like Saturn. As you can see here, we have the Kaaba in Mecca, and the black cube used in Jewish traditions. They use whilst they're praying. So every major religion, that is Christianity, Judaism and Islam, have their own particular ode to this black box. In other words, Saturn. Also notice the sixes here. Saturn's the 6th planet from the sun. Saturday is named after Saturn, and his talisman is a 6-pointed star. That's back to the geometry we was just talking about. 666. Also notice corona is 66. Now, as you can see here, 2D cube, hexagon, star of David. It's all interconnected. Now this might shed a little light on why you see these fucking stupid symbols all over the place. Yeah. And the black cube, what do you know? Equals 93 like Saturn. Also you can find these shapes contained within the top 6 Sephiroth in the Tree of Life. The highest point of this Sephiroth is the crown as well, or Keter. So I thought that was interesting. I'm not going to go into an exposition of the cosmology of the Kabbalah right now because it's too long. But this is known as the crown, this point. Corona means crown in Latin. Now I mentioned earlier about the work of Jordan Maxwell, who's somebody I watched a lot when I was younger. And I'm building off a lot of his work right now just with the overlay of Gematria. And on Saturn he says, and this is a direct quote from him, the planet Saturn is very important. The Nazi party were the most Saturnalian brotherhood of war and destruction. They always knew Saturn had rings, the Lord of the Rings. Saturn is the god of this world. From that we get the dark side of the Force, Darth Vader. Remember Darth Vader with his Nazi helmet speaking through his Masonic triangles. Saturn is the lord of the black robes. Judges wear black. Catholic priests wear robes, black robes. Rabbis wear black. Kids graduating from high school wear black robes. The god Saturn was referred to as El. If you continue today to worship the planet Saturn, you become known as an elder. You get elected with elections. You're one of their elites, and you've now been elevated. Now we will return to this quote in a bit because there's a lot in here, but I just wanted to give you an overlay of what we're dealing with here. So the black cube is 93 in ordinal, like I said, like Saturn and like crucifix. As you can see, propaganda is also 93. And now, I mean, look at all these fucking ugly ass black cubes they build. All like, why are you building these in places? They're not exactly aesthetically pleasing to look at. They're fucking ugly, so it just seems kind of weird. And I'm pretty sure if you Google why they've built these, you'll find some bullshit convoluted answer, but it's not. It's because of Saturn, I'm telling you right now. Of the deities related to Saturn. So we have Nimrod, Saturnus, and Kronos. Babylonian, Roman and Greek. So let's start from the bottom. As you can see here, Nimrod, the founder of Babylon, also known as the Rebeller, he was the one that built the Tower of Babel and scattered the tongues to cause confusion. Notice he was also the sixth son of Cush, so that's back to that six again. Like Saturn is the sixth planet from the sun. Now we transition from this era into the Roman and Greek, and we have this here. We have a change in the story. So for the Greeks, Cronus learned that he was destined to be overcome by his own children. As a result, he devoured them all as soon as they were born to prevent the prophecy. So this is the story of this particular deity to do with Saturn in Greek mythology. Totally normal behaviour, you know, eating your own kids. And that's why in these depictions you've got now the adaptation of children involved, with some old ass man doing weird shit with kids. Because the story is that essentially he ate his children. Now we'll spin back to this later, but that needs to be brought up for now. So check hexagon, right? Check the overlays. Hexagon is 74 and 38. Check the overlays with 74. Check the overlays with 38. Also, God Saturn equals 38. So that makes perfect sense. Masonic, parables, Jewish, cross, occult, gospel, Messiah, Jesus, London, killing, Lucifer. All 74. Son of God, prayer, martial law, the king. We'll get to that later. The king, Pentagon, Christmas, English, Gematria, killing, Lucifer, Crowley, all 38. So as you can see, this is an extremely relevant set of numbers, and considering the words that line up with it, it's pretty fitting that it's to do with Saturn and the cult of death. And I found this as well online, really interesting. This company who specialises in 3D and 4D designs for businesses teamed up with Johns Hopkins University, who, as you know, were involved in Event 201, and they created this app which tracks all the live cases of coronavirus. And just by coincidence, this company is called Hexagon. Now the term hex, if you're unfamiliar with what a hex is, it's an evil spell associated with bad luck or trouble. And if you know Gematria, you know 44 is a kill number, and hex equals 44. So there's Cancer, space, and tetragrammaton, the full name of God, 44. So it seems perfectly fitting that the term hex, derived from the hexagon, which is also used as a symbol in the Saturn death cult, also has the exact same numerical value as kill, and as the same numerical value as the disease that kills countless people on a daily basis. Now, as you can see here, Saturn is usually depicted as an old man, as you saw up in those images up there as well. He's usually an old man holding a sickle. As it says here, Saturn was usually pictured as an aged old man, from which we undoubtedly get our representation of death, the old man with the sickle. The planet Saturn revolves around Saturn. The planet Saturn revolves around the sun in approximately 29 years. That's important. Remember that. We'll come back to that. Therefore, the human lifespan would equate to 2 or 3 revolutions of this planet. So, Saturn, time, old man, sickle. See where they're going, right? So they call him Father Time, or the King of Time, because he represents cycles of life and death. Hence why Saturn is connected to the Grim Reaper, as it says down here. So in Jewish Gematria, time, light and killer all equal 144. Now I've spoken about 144 before. There's 140 minutes in a day, as you can see here. So that number is connected to time in a big way. Now if you think about it, we're all light beings, yeah? And time kills us all. So time is the killer of light, all 144, yeah? Think about it. 144 and Saturn go hand in hand. And bringing that back to Corona, this recent article, which has been implemented all over the fucking world, section 144 is a section of the Code of Criminal Procedure which prohibits assembly of 5 or more people holding public meetings carrying firearms. So again, I really don't think that's no coincidence. All our notions of time are distorted right now. I don't know if it's fucking Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Sunday. Saturn's also known as the gatekeeper, yeah, because of time. Gatekeeper 93, like crucifix, like Saturn, and like the black cube. Now, some more and more, I think this is linked to Corona. So Saturn has always been spoken of as having a crown, due to its rings resembling some form of royal regalia. So as you can see in this headline here, it says Saturn wears the crown. Now corona is Latin for crown. Crown equals 73, and corona, like we've said before, is 66, like Saturn worship. Also like king. Remember, king always also equals 38, like hexagon. Saturn the king, Saturn the 66. The king wears the crown, the corona, you see? Now, on the number 73, I'm not sure if you've heard of the Big Bang Theory. I'm pretty sure you have, everyone knows it, but there's a character in it called Sheldon, and he always wears a t-shirt that has the number 73 on it, and when he's asked why he wears this number, he replies, 73 is the best number. Why? 73 is the 21st prime, its mirror 37 is the 12th prime, and its mirror 21 is the product of multiplying 7 and 3, 73. And in binary, 73 is a palindrome, 1001, which backwards is obviously the same thing, because that's what palindrome is, the same thing forward and backwards. So 73 is the best number, right? It's essentially perfect. Check this. The best number, 73. Perfect, 73. So yeah, I mean, that's what a big old head nod to Gematria if I've ever seen one. Now the ancient Roman festival celebrating Saturn, Saturnalia, that's also 73. Remember I said earlier Saturn's related to time, and the Grim Reaper in death and cycles, the Grim Reaper is also 73. And like Sheldon said, 73 is the 21st prime, Saturn 21, event 201. So we can see here clearly the numerical relation between the so-called best number and Saturn, the best planet that wears the crown. Also perfect numbers equals 66. Number 6 is the first perfect number, so you know the synchronicity is perfect. First 5 numbers, first perfect number is 6. So yeah, that all goes together very well. So while I was researching, I also found this, which was like the ultimate confirmation that it was a Saturn ritual. So last year in October, which was the same month as event 201, which was the simulation of the coronavirus outbreak, another 20 moons were found in Saturn, making it the Moon King, overtaking Jupiter. Notice the headline Moon King in all of these. I could have got more, but I couldn't fit them on the page. Literally, the quotation mark in every single headline is Moon King. Again, King, constant idea of royalty and prestige attached to Saturn. Also Moon King equals 44, like kill, hex, cancer, and all that. Also 20 new moons before 2020. Yeah, okay. That's super fishy. Anyway, remember I said how it takes 29 years for Saturn to orbit the Sun. This was one of the reasons why the ancients associated it with time, because it had the longest observable orbit out of all the other 6 planets, or the other 6 wanderers. Now this 29 is encoded heavily. Firstly, Nimrod is 73 and 37, like numbers we've already discussed, to do with perfection that concerns Saturn. However, Kronos, 6 and Black all equal 29. Remember back to the passage earlier by Jordan Maxwell and their obsession with black, that's all Saturn worship. Also the prefix El, as we previously discussed, associated with the Elohim, also equals 37. This idea, the keeper of time, again going back to that, is 73. Same numbers over and over again. It was thought to be the keeper, father of time, given that it had the longest observable, repeatable period in the sky. And this is 10,000 days, 29 years. It's just... Now this popped into my head while I was doing this, Belphegor's prime, because I was thinking about prime numbers, and I remembered that when I was reading a book about the demons in the Kabbalah, Belphegor was known as the Lord of the Opening, and it reminded me of the eye of Saturn I showed you earlier, portal. If you don't know about Belphegor's prime, it's basically a prime number that's a palindrome. Again, back to the palindrome idea, it's the same thing forward and backwards. This is it right here. So Belphegor's prime is a prime number. There's also a palindrome. It's named after the Prince of Hell for his ingenious inventions, because it contains 2 sets of 13 zeros with a 66 in the center. The palindrome number is 1, 0, yeah, I'm not saying all that, you can see it. Now there is a load of metaphysical interpretations about this number. I personally think it's some sort of prime code to do with the base of reality, and the reason I say this is purely because of the amount of numbers that I see and which numbers. So we know 666 is an ode to Saturn, but it's also connected to man. Here is wisdom. You know the quote from Revelation. So we have 666, mounds surrounded by 13 zeros on each side. Now zeros typically represent source consciousness or God, due to the indivisible nature of zero. No matter what one of the four base functions you come back to, you always get zero. So 0 times 0, 0 plus 0 minus and divide, it always comes back to 0. Now in total there's 26 of these zeros. The number 26 equals God in ordinal, so we have 666 man surrounded by the infinite, 13 circles on each side, or God, and then we have on either side a 1, which I believe to represent the two poles which govern all aspects of three-dimensional reality. If you're familiar with Hermeticism and the Kabbalion, then you know about polarity, up and down, right and wrong, man and woman, love and hate, hot and cold, fast, slow, night and day, it goes on and on, God, the devil. The primordial nature of our very reality is grounded in this idea of opposing poles. So if you haven't read the Kabbalion, you go and read that. So that's what I see this number as. The number of man encased by God and the two governing poles, but who the fuck knows, to be honest, that's just my interpretation. Anyway, back to this guy. So this is his glyph, this one right here. You can Google this, find this online. I noticed it looked like the inversion of the pi symbol. Obviously pi has to do with, again, time and circle and patterns, cycles. So is that an inversion of time? Maybe this is like an inversion of pi, an inversion of time. You know how occultists like to turn shit upside down, trying to be all fucking edgy and shit. Also, Belphegor is 38 like Hexagon. Lord of the Open is 93, like I said, and Saturn 93. So yeah, no doubt this deity is a tribute to Saturn. And I think the power of prime numbers is evident in a metaphysical sense, but I also found this, which fucking surprised the shit out of me. Did you know there's an illegal prime number? Like, if you bring this number out in America, you can be prosecuted and shit, like, no joke. You can read about it. Basically, this guy found a prime number, which is this long ass number here, that could be implemented in coding, which just so happened to bypass DVD encryption. So as they say here, if it got out, it could have completely fucked the industry and the entertainment industry, because they would have had no more encryption systems. So they obviously made this number illegal, and the use of this number illegal because of what it could do. And if you Google this, you can get more information on it. So yeah, that should show you the power of prime numbers. Alright, so back to Corona. Bill Gates calls for national tracking system for coronavirus during Reddit AMA. Also, Bill Gates, Saturn, Cape, yeah, that is a little different now, gatekeeper. So, this motherfucker said that, yeah, he basically wants a tracking system. Now it's been spoken about over the years in the conspiracy community, especially when Obama was in power, about the RFID chip and whatnot, and no surprise, 73 and 37, back to these same numbers again. Now remember the images of Saturn with the kids, right? I think everybody's aware by now of the rampant paedophilia and child sacrifice that goes on in Hollywood and BBC, from Jimmy Savile to fucking Weinstein to, you know, the list just goes on and on and on. Royal family. Google Isaac Cappy if you never heard of him. Watch his videos. He'll tell you some shit. So this Saturn cult basically rules Hollywood and all entertainment, because they're all branches on the same tree, as you already know. Now check the gematria of children, 73 and 44. Numbers we've already seen: Hex, Kill, Cancer, Nimrod, Perfect, Keeper of Time. Now when we talk sacrifices, well, typically within the scope of religion, what animal is typically sacrificed is goats and lambs. And I know other animals are sacrificed, but typically when you think of sacrifice, you think of goats and lambs. Now read this: all goats under 6 months are called kids. Now that shit is just weird to me. If you check the gematria of these, look, kids 29, babies 38, newborn 37. All numbers we've spoke about. Goats 73, sacrifice 73. Paedophile 44, abuser 66, handler 37. It's the same hits over and over again. This picture came out from Bohemian Grove, like, I don't know, 10-15 years ago. I think it was Alec Jones that snuck in there. Showed the image of them worshipping Moloch, the big giant owl. So Moloch is a biblical name of a Canaanite god associated with child sacrifice. Moloch 66. Baal is also another name for this deity. Baal 92 and 29. Also notice here the root word of this is king. Like 66, king 66 in Jewish, Moloch 66 in ordinal, so this all comes together. Another most famous example of sacrifice I could think of was the binding of Isaac, and lo and behold it's the same numbers all over again. Mount Moriah, where he's taken, Moriah is 37, the binding, it's called the binding of Isaac, is 92, Abraham is 44, Isaac is 39, 93 like Saturn, just the reverse. Same stuff. Now on this, like I said earlier, death equals 38. Death also equals 118 in Jewish, and this is a number that's spoke about a lot, especially on Zach's channel. A lot of weird shit has happened on this date. If you look, go Google it. Apparently Al-Qaeda was formed on this date between a meeting with Bin Laden and Dr. Fadil. What a fucking load of shit that is. But yeah, death is 118 in Jewish. Sacrificial lamb is also 118. Homicide 118 in Jewish, and sacrifice to children is 118. Predictive programming also 118, something we'll wonder every single fucking day. 144, back to this idea of time, and Saturn is 118, so there's your connection there with time. Also 22 divided by 7 equals 118. Now this is important because if you write out 22 divided by 7 and punch it in a calculator, it's going to bring you to the shorthand version of pi to do 2 decimal places. As you can see here, pi is 3.14, 22 divided by 7 is 3.14, so this is another tribute to time. Also, another, for the sake of continuity, Big Bang Theory. Sheldon's girlfriend's apartment door number was 314, 3.14. Another tribute to this number. Geometry, we've been speaking about the cube 31 and 13. So 13, these are the same numbers, okay? 13 is a 6 prime. So this 6 again, this Saturn 6 again. Anunnaki and science, both 31. If you know the story Anunnaki, you know they taught science. Zodiac is also 31, so does vaccination. 31 is also the 11th prime, and 11 is a master number, so it makes sense that the numerical value of the shapes which constitute the fundamental building blocks of reality has a direct link to not only primes but master numbers as well. Now originally this was supposed to be the end of the presentation, but I stupidly looked up Saturn's conjunctions and found a fucking gem. So if you don't know, you can Google them. I'm not explaining them here, what conjunctions are. But I wanted to look at the conjunctions in Saturn and just see if I could spot anything fishy, and you bet I did. So check this. Saturn and Pluto conjunction will be exact at 22 degrees Capricorn on January the 12th, 2020. January the 12th, 2020. If you've been following this shit, seeing that date is going to be enough. But if you haven't, let me break it down. First of all, let's read this. Saturn rules fear and Pluto is the taboo and unseen. Saturn, Pluto is the deep state, the hidden hand, and death cults. Both planets of endings, death, resurrection, which contain many paradoxes. Okay, so look back to this date, January the 12th, 2020. Write that date out in shorthand. 12th of the 1st, 121. Coronavirus outbreak 121. World Health Organization 121. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation 121. Johns Hopkins University 121. National Health Service 121. Are you fucking kidding me? Like really deep this. And also this is the date that the first case was confirmed in Seattle, I'm pretty sure, in America. So on the exact day that we have this conjunction of two planets that are to do with the deep state and death cults and lawmaking, as we'll see in a bit, on this exact day this happens, which equals a number 121, which equals all of this. I mean, that shit isn't by accident. Saturn and Pluto conjunctions are 36-year cycles, okay? So their previous meetings were 82, 47 and 14, with major culminating phases occurring in 2001, 21, Saturn. What happened in 2001, 9/11. Again, one of the biggest fucking Saturn rituals there's ever been. I'm gonna make a whole video on Flight 93 and the black box, because that shit was just a joke. These are historical years that brought major events and consciousness of society and the world. Can't make this shit up. So I was like, seeing as these conjunctions don't happen very often, let me sift through the years and see what else has happened on these dates. 'Cause since it don't happen every 10 years, I'm not gonna have to fucking go through 50 different dates. So I started to have a look. The last time Saturn and Pluto had a conjunction, 47. Check what happened. A brief recession begins in the United States. We're on the verge of fucking an economic crash in every single country right now. The term AIDS was first used to describe, well, AIDS. So another virus happening under this conjunction. The first computer virus infects Apple computer via a floppy disk. The first computer virus infects Apple under this conjunction. Again, viruses. Unemployment in the UK increases and hits 3 million. Everybody's out of fucking work right now. Global surplus of crude oil causes gasoline prices to collapse. Times Man's Magazine of the Year is given for the first time to a non-human. The fucking computer, Bill Gates' computer. We'll get into that a bit later when we get into Sumerian cipher, but this shit isn't happening by coincidence. So that was some of the shit that happened in 47. Also, 47 was a big fucking year. Google some other shit that happened, and CIA was made, as it said down here. National Security Act was implemented. A bag of shit happened in 47. Also the first year of the Cold War with the Soviet Union. Okay, one before that, it was 1914 and 15. Saturn conjunct with Pluto in Cancer. We had the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, which triggered the fucking First World War. And the Federal Reserve Bank opens. On November the 13th, on 113, I've just seen that, 113, the bullshit number. Let's go one before that. In the conjunction before this, okay, this was... So I saw this number and I was like, okay, yeah, this is weird. Victoria Hall disaster, 183 children, again, notice kids, crushed to death, scrambling for prizes. This hit me weird, because 5-pointed stars 183, devil worshippers 183, and all the way out chaos also 1 equals 183, and the fact that this happened under a Saturn conjunction, and Saturn is the leader of the death cults and represents time and cycles, and also children, as I've shown. Yeah, this shit was... yeah. Okay, before that, 10th February 1852, Great Ormond Street opens. So, if you don't know what Great Ormond Street is, it's a hospital for terminally ill children and really ill children in the UK, and I think it's one of the best in the world. So, Great Ormond Street Hospital equals 119, like all CNI. Notice as well, the number 119 is how Americans would write 9/11. So yeah, let that sink in. Sacrifice for Saturn is also 119, like Great Ormond Street. And here's some more geometry on the cube. Back into the stars and on the sixes, because Star of David is 119, so this again ties in with the geometry I showed you earlier. Ancient Mystery Religions is also 119, so is Fraternal Order of Police. Also, this fucking logo on sells the shit out of me. Like, you think it'd be a kid with a hand when a doctor, or like some happy shit, I don't know, something a little more upbeat than a fucking child crying as their logo. I mean, sacrifice for... they're like dead telling you to your face. So back to these conjunctions. In the one before this, the fucking slave trade began. So after this, I was done. I wasn't looking at it anymore, because I pretty much think I've made my point. Read this. As if eclipses weren't enough to handle, it's time to get ready for an even rarer foundation. On Sunday, January 12th, there'll be a conjunction between Saturn, the strict rule enforcer, and Pluto, the lord of the underworld, strict rule enforcer. There's been a lot of strict rule enforcing over these past few months. So as I mentioned earlier, the Sumerian cipher, which in my eyes is a tribute to Saturn, because it's just ordinal alphabet times by 6. So A is 6, B is 12, C is 18, and so on and so forth. With this in mind, realise that everything in English ordinal and Sumerian Gematria will have the same value. As you can see here, vaccination is 111 in English and 666 in Sumerian. just a side note back to Sheldon quickly, when he mentions that 73 is perfect, he maintains there's also a palindrome in binary which reads 1001,001, which essentially is 111 when we take the actual digits that are there. So something else you should notice about this cipher. So you've got 666 and 111. 666 is Saturn. Remember, 666, Star of David, cube, hexagon, Saturn. Okay. So we've got vaccination, 666, computer, 666, witchcraft, corrupt, humanity, slave ship, necromancy, and Pizzagate. Now, if you don't know about Pizzagate, this was pretty much a scandal that went on where some high-ranking officials in the Democrat Party were alleged of human trafficking and a child sex ring. And as you can see here, one of the establishments allegedly involved was the Comet Ping Pong restaurant in Washington DC, Comet Ping Pong 73. So this is where they were apparently trafficking some of the children, so no surprise that shit equals 73. And Comet, space, Saturn, running theme, yeah. Right, so Archon 666. If you don't know who the Archons are, basically demons of Gnosticism. Image of Satan 666, and also you see that little crazy ones running around winning all the awards, yeah, 666. A few more things. If you're from the root UK, you remember the Rochdale sex abuse trafficking ring. Rochdale is 66 and 39 Saturn numbers, both of them. Sacrifice for the beast 93, like Saturn. This was a case that involved 9 men who were convicted of sex trafficking, including the rape of 47 girls. 19 men were convicted. I mean, 47, that number stands out a lot, so I mean, the video's not about that, but yeah, Rochdale, where this happened, is all Saturn related, again to do with kids. And again, for the sake of continuity, I mentioned the Big Bang. Let's take a look at Lord of the Rings, because this film is quite literally an entire homage to Saturn. After everything I've said, I'm just going to scroll this down and you should see it. So The Hobbit was originally released in 1937 I mean, which is the reverse of 73. And check out what also happened on this day. 21 Japanese warplanes bombed the city of Canton for 90 minutes. 21, like Saturn, on this day. The Hobbit also released. Lord of the Rings is 73. Sauron 38. Eye of Sauron 144. Back to Time. Hobbit 44. Mount Doom, where they need to take the ring, 130. And the famous quote, 44 like hex, like kill, Smaug 29. So yeah, I hope that's made shit a little clearer.